everybody. It's Robin Raskin from the Virtual Events Group, and we are just on our very final day at IMEX, which has been a fabulous show as people start to think about destinations, incentive travel, and how they are going to meld live and virtual events and all the tech that they learned during the pandemic. So we've been taking everybody's temperature. Special guest now. Her name is Sophie Ahmed, and Sophie is with Hubilo. I think most of you are familiar with Hubilo and its tremendous trajectory during the pandemic. But Sophie has a long history in the events business, and so I kind of want you to, I want to start with the picture. So you were in the live events business at Informa, correct?
Well, I started at Reed Exhibitions
Reed.
in the 90s, and Reed was actually the world's largest event organizer at that point. And then I moved to IIR, as it was called then, and then Informa bought IIR in 2005. But in total, I was at Informa for about 17 years, but I was in the conference division, the training division, the exhibition division, so events from 10 people through to like hundreds and thousands of people.
And to me, this is a great transition story. So you were about to go to Cannes, right?
Oh yeah, then I was on Money 2020 and Cannes Lions, yeah.
And then we had this little pandemic.
Yeah.
So Sophie says to herself, what does the industry really need now? And so tell them what you did, because I think you figured out how the world had to tech up.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I've been in events at that point for about 24 years. I'm a bit of an event geek. I'm fascinated by different models, international, domestic, trends, how you consume content, how you engage the audiences, the attendee journey. I've been fascinated by that, running big shows for so long. And I just saw that this is the defining moment. So many industries have been digitized. Container shipping has been digitized, print was digitized, retail was digitized. Events was the last one really, and I think that I could see that events was about to become a digitized
we say events
industry.
And pornography, they were never digitized. Right? Well, sorry, it's getting late.
So I just thought, this is the defining moment. This is, and then, as we all know, it was a catalyst that was probably needed a long time before the pandemic, but the pandemic forced the hand, and it digitized the events industry, which was a long time coming, and I was fascinated by that, and I'm still fascinated by that because I think it's the future and we'll never go back. There will always be a digital component, a digital overlay. Some events will be purely digital. It's great for D&I and bringing people in who couldn't attend before, and accessibility. It's great for sustainability. It's great for analytics and metrics and data and all of that. So, I'm fascinated by it. So, that's how I launched VEI,
right,
the virtual events industry.
Classes.
Which was fundamentally a training program of 11 modules which I wrote, and I wrote the entire structure and the outline of each module, what each module would cover one Sunday afternoon in June 2020. And I wrote the entire website copy in a day, the positioning, and about the digital overlay, the community, the 365, using Super Bowl as an analogy because that was the original hybrid, and all those things that I've now seen coming up. And I was sort of coming up with that back in June 2020, which was really exciting.
So on top of it, and it still lives at PCMA, right?
So it's gone into something else actually, but it is still alive and kicking. And what was fascinating, so we did the training program, but we also ran, I ran 2 events or webinars per month. One we call summits, one we call tech talks, and then we would charge platforms for us to use their platforms. And we did that basically to generate leads, and we generated 12,000 unique data entries, leads, in 10 months, which we then funneled into revenue into the training. So that was really interesting, because I think events can be great lead generators, and that's fundamentally another angle that we're going to go down as it becomes more of a digital marketing mix.
So and that's what they are. And I think you were so quick to jump on this opportunity to digitize, to look at data, to look at lead gen. And so now pandemic's over and you are at Hubilo, and your job there is?
So I'm working over all of it really, working closely with the sales and marketing and the product teams, but looking at the strategy, looking at what sectors we're going to target, and also, you know, the product offering and, you know, working really closely with the team there. They're such a lovely team. I went to India in September and I met most of the team for the first time, most of the leadership team for the first time, and
Right.
that was
Right.
great
For
fun.
those of you that don't know Hubilo well, that they are from, they began in India. They're in San Francisco now also.
Yeah.
And their trajectory during the pandemic was insane.
Insane. I mean, you know, there were a few that really stood out during that period and still stand out. But when you get to meet the Indian leadership team, particularly, you'll understand it. They're really hardworking, really humble, really clever. So they're great. And they had the vision, and our CEO, Vebhav's great. He had a great vision for what he wanted, and he was really close to the customers. They stayed really close to the customers, and they listened to what the customers wanted, and they could pivot quickly, and they could update things quickly, and they still do, and you know, they're doing really well.
Yeah, they created a fabulous platform. Now remind me of the privacy side, because I know there were some issues. Who owns the data?
Oh yeah.
Does Hubilo own the data?
We were never part of that. I mean, I know Swapcard and Hopin sort of
Yeah.
did own the data. No, that's never been.
That's never been your
No, we've done SOC 2 as well and everything. So we're GDPR compliant. We work with loads of companies in Europe. So that was never anything that was us.
So now I have to ask you the tough question. Pandemic's over. Everybody's rejoicing to be live with some virtual components. How does Hubilo walk through this transition period? And I know you've done stuff with partnerships that have been great. And if you could just sort of lay out what you know of your roadmap.
I think, look, I mean, there will, as I say, there will always be a digital component to events to varying degrees, depending on the legacy revenue. Was it international? Was it domestic? And so on. This industry has not yet found its level. We have not yet arrived where we're going to arrive. You know, everyone rushed back to in person. Everyone was excited. And now everyone's like, actually, you know what? It's a long way to travel. I'd rather go back to doing it at home. You've got the recession looming, you've got prices going up, you've got accessibility,
budget
sustainability, all of that. So, you know, it's not going anywhere. And you've got Community 365, and I think that's a big part of things. But I think for us, where we're really going to play is that understanding how events can be a big driver of revenue and growth and lead generation, and how it is becoming through the digital element particularly, but in person as well, how events more than ever are about being part of the marketing mix and being part of the marketing strategy. And I think that, you know, you could spend 100K on PPC to get some leads, or you could spend 100K on using like Hubilo, for example, to get leads. But if you're going to get leads that way, they're going to be more engaged, more compliant, they're going to be half funneled, you're going to understand them, you're going to understand their behaviours, what they're consuming, who they're engaging with. You're not going to get that with leads from PPC. So, you know, there is that angle that is really interesting, I think, right now.
So you are such a student of human behavior. So what did Hubilo teach you about? Like, people say they like one thing, but it turns out they like another thing. They like short sessions, they like big keynote speakers. Are there certain takeaways that you can share with us?
It's hard. I don't think you can say really one answer, because every event has its own idiosyncrasy and its own nuance, and it depends on what was the event for, how big is the event, how long is the event, you know, what sector is it in, what region is it in. So I think like it just depends, and I think that's the lovely thing about events, and I think the lovely thing about event technology is that we can create more of a personalised experience.
Yeah.
So we can say, oh, actually, that you want one keynote, we'll do that, or we'll do that. So we can now make it more personable.
And I think your other secret sauce is this 365
Yeah.
community, because an event used to have a beginning and an end.
Yes, exactly.
And you kind of saw past that.
Well, the thing is, and I've always said this even years ago before the pandemic, with events, we had this formula, didn't we? 6 months out, pre-registration opens, 12 weeks out, ex-prom, vis-prom, all this jargon that we did. You know, but really what were we doing? Because we'd finish an event like this, just drop off the cliff for 6 months, and now we've got to start again, and it's going to be even harder because now we're going to have to re-engage everyone. So I think by keeping it alive year round, as we know, you get increased touch points, you understand people more, you can funnel data more to get them to come into your event. And also you're keeping it alive, so you're not only going to get higher renewals, you're going to get higher new business or new attendees, which we couldn't do before. And we're going to understand that behaviour, we're going to understand that insight, and we're going to translate it into our messaging, our positioning, our future event design, future speakers, budget allocation, team allocation, and all of that, which we never had before. So I think that, you know, it is a must-have, and it's just insane to think that you wouldn't have it. And then you can have single sign-on, and you can use the same sign-on.
That to me,
And
yeah.
how much easier is that for the attendee?
No, Hubilo knows all about me. Yeah, no, we're old friends by now, and that, and the customer support, I will say, just from friends.
Customer
in
support
the
is very
business,
good.
is so important. So you have totally, you know, heard somebody with 20 some odd years of experience, and I urge you all to go check out Hubilo's work and keep listening to as the events world changes. Thank you, Sophie Ahmed.
Thank you very much for having me. Nice to meet you in person.